Hello and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform, inspire, and share lessons learned to build upon the foundation of those who have gone before and inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today we are speaking with Don Gelestino. Don started in the elevator trade as a helper in 1986. With the help of some great mentors, he learned quickly and started Vertec Elevator in 1993. In 2010, Don sold Vertec to United Technologies and stayed working with UTC for the next few years. In 2015, Don started Champion Elevator, where he serves as the president and CEO. Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here, Matt.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. It's something I've been looking forward to. I've enjoyed meeting you in the past, and I'm excited to talk more about your career and also the careers you're providing through Champion Elevator. And so I've just got to ask, how did you get started in the elevator industry?
So my story is a little bit strange. When I was a senior in high school, my family moved up to Maine, and I went to Maine, did high school, and was a little bit of a crazy rock and roller back then. I wanted to be a bass player, and being as smart as I was, I decided to leave Maine and come back to New York with $21 and a bass guitar. And I thought I was going to be a rock star. So here I am, an elevator man. So what happened in between, I'll tell you a little bit. I was bouncing around, really nowhere to stay. I ended up staying on a couple of guys' couches for about 3 months, rent-free, which is great when you have no money. And one morning, one of the guys shook me and said, "Hey, you got to come to work with us. We need a helper." And I said to the guys, "What do you guys do?" "Our father owns an elevator company." I said, "All right, if you're telling me I got to start paying rent, I better start going to work." So lo and behold, I end up in an elevator machine room. I remember looking at the controller, seeing all the lights and seeing the shivs, and I didn't know even the name of anything back then. And I was very intrigued by it. As a kid, I always built my own mini bikes and go-karts and, wired up my amplifiers myself and little stuff like that. So I found it very interesting. And I was, so I kind of asked them, I said, "If you ever need me back again, I'd be glad to come." And I remember it was $4 an hour. And that seemed like big money back then, 1986. So, they had me back, and I really took a liking to the business. And because I was very interested, the people there really tried, and they actually helped me. They helped me learn. They weren't, hiding, advancement opportunities. It was all put out there. Be the best you could be type stuff. And, I became, a mechanic, and then a troubleshooter, a foreman, supervisor, finally engineering all the mod jobs for the company. And then I went out on my own. In 1993, I started Vertec Elevator, and I had a great run with that. I went from 93 to 2010.
How did you, sorry to interrupt, how did you get that, to start your own? Sounds to me like a big leap to make. What was it that got you over that leap, that hump?
Well, again, just like the craziness of leaving home with $21, the company I worked for was kind of in trouble. They had some tax issues. I had no benefits. I had worked for the company for 6 months without even taking a paycheck. And I was actually trying to pay for my own wedding at the same time. And so I was valet parking cars on Friday nights and Saturday nights. I was doing roofs and decks and whatever I can on Saturdays and Sundays to supplement the funds I didn't have for working for the elevator company, saying a few Hail Marys in between that the company would get back on its feet. And it kind of never happened. So 2 weeks before my wedding, I actually gave my 2-week notice. And I went down to the county clerk and filed a business application. I went and got insurance. Back then it was Burnham and Associates and Bruce Rector and Jackie Mortman. I got insurance. And what I did was I actually took a copy of my insurance and I typed up a letter and I faxed it to every elevator company in the phone books, from A to Z. I didn't care if it was Otis. I didn't care if it was A elevator. Every one of them got a fax from me saying that the day I got back from my honeymoon, I'd be available for any kind of subcontracting work. And lo and behold, when I got back from my honeymoon, I actually had people who faxed me back telling me, I need some car door operators over in Brighton Beach, or I got a shivving cables up in the Bronx. And I'll tell you the truth, I went out with some of my, thank God there was some money left over from the wedding. We got, the wedding gifts, and I bought a van, retrofitted it with some shelving, got some tools, and I just went out by myself and did tons of elevator work, and built myself up. And a year later, my accountant was the same accountant as that company. And when I went to do my taxes, the accountant said, "Wow, you're doing all right." And I said, "Yeah, a lot of work, but hey, listen, I'm paying the bills, And at that point, I was thrilled. And I said, how's the other company doing? He goes, "Oh, they're in trouble. The bank account was seized. They padlocked the shop. They're working out of a mechanic's house, dispatching." And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "Tell them if there's anything I could ever do, I could get parts." He was on credit hold everywhere. And, if he needed help. And the old owner reached out to me, and he actually was in the position where he was really just wanted to sell the company and pay off his debts. And that was in 1993. And funny enough, I actually ended up buying that company, the first company I ever went to work for. And that was 93. I started with them in 86, and it's 2022. And that gentleman still works for me here at Champion today.
Very
so
cool.
Yeah, it was great. He stayed with me through Vertec. When I went to Unitech, he was over there with me. And when I was off on my no compete, I'm not really sure what he did for that 2 years. And so I sold that company. I built that company, sold it in 2010 to United Technologies. And I went to United Technologies and worked there for a couple of years. And that was great. I really, listen, I came out of high school, jumped in the elevator field, never really had any schooling or college or anything like that. So going to United Technologies and looking at all their online programs and courses and classes and educational opportunities, I pretty much overindulged. I mean, I literally took enough classes in 3 years that, people go 20 years and don't even get the experience. So that was a very great eye-opening educational point in my life.
Right.
And after selling my company and learning this new stuff and kind of seeing how the big OEMs operate versus the mom and pops, I was really compelled to go back into the business after my no compete. So 2015, I started Champion Elevator, and we're in business now 6.5 years. We have just under 300 employees, and I think we're 12 elevators short of having 5,000 elevators on reoccurring monthly maintenance, which in 6 years, it's a lot of work. This beard, when I started, was black.
There you go. No, that's an amazing story. And obviously you've, I want to say, kind of grown up in the industry. It sounds like, from ever since you left high school and the rock star dream. I don't know, maybe we'll see on the stage later, but I'm curious, what is it that you love so much about this industry?
So I'll tell you the truth, throughout the career, from pretty much the first day till every day I have now, the people are amazing. I mean, you get good and you get bad, you get all types of mixes everywhere, but the people that really dig in, they have a passion like nothing I've seen before, which I think is amazing. And the technology, the codes, while a lot of people find, all these code updates very overwhelming, and they're not happy about them, and technology's changing, and we got to learn how to use, instead of carbons and coppers, we're going to relays, and then relays are going to printed circuit boards. And
Right.
like, people don't like to change, but what I actually find in this industry, the change happens and it happens rapidly, especially when you're dealing with 10 different elevators manufacturers, right? You have to be aware of what's going on. And when you're working in several different cities, we're in New York, Connecticut, Jersey, and Pennsylvania, all different codes. Long Island has tons of jurisdictions. Everybody thinks different at the same time.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, learning and adapting and having to stay in that pace you actually don't get one boring second of your life. And I got to tell you, when you find a group of people to work like that with and to keep making things happen and keep reinventing yourself on a monthly basis, it just makes the day go by and you really feel a sense of accomplishment every day.
That is awesome. And as you talk about the people, one of the themes that I hear from a lot of people in the trade is that there are some amazing mentors. Who are some of your mentors that you feel like, wow, man, if that guy hadn't been there, I don't know if I could have, learned to maybe take the next step?
Yeah. So the funniest thing is, there's some big names and big shoes to fill in this industry, and there are amazingly smart people, like the Hillpot family and, Pat Carriger and there's some amazing, just people out there, smart consultants, the Van Dusen guys, Rob Cousy, and, I had the one person that I think was a real big instrumental person in my career is a name that nobody would really know. I mean, mostly anyone that knew him probably passed on already. It was a guy named Tom Coyle, and he was a mechanic for Deco Elevator in the 80s in Brooklyn. And it was kind of crazy. I started working in that business, and like I said, I had no money, and there were days that I really didn't even have enough money to get back to Long Island from Brooklyn. And this mechanic, Tom, would always say, hey, why don't you come with me? And, I would be in his car. I was his helper. And he'd invite me over, and he would do the same thing every time. He would put 2 hamburgers on the grill. He got himself a big tall boy, big giant Budweiser can. Used to call it an oil can. I was a Diet Coke guy back then. And he would do strange things. Like he would take blueprints and he would like modify them and ask me, what's wrong with this? Or he would show me elevator parts and rectifiers and resistors and diodes. And like he would just make tricks with all of these parts, or tell me how to wire this up, or if you wanted to reduce resistance on this rectifier, which way would you go? What does this rectifier look like it does? All these tricks. And I'm telling you that I honestly think we did that at least 100 times.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, number one, getting a free meal back then was a very big thing. Every day, my lunch for probably 3 or 4 years was a bag of Fritos and a Diet Coke, and it was 75 cents and a quarter. It was a $1 lunch.
Wow.
And I gotta tell you, yeah, I did that. So that hamburger went a big way. And the guy's friendship and the way he did it, like he would laugh. Like when I made a mistake, I wire something backwards. He'd show me door locks. I wire them parallel instead of in series and stuff. And he would laugh and he would say, no, and he'd tell me what I did wrong, and always in a very nice, fun way. Not, right. Demeaning, not, you idiot, nothing. It was straight, nice, real friendly type environment. So he was probably a big mentor. And this guy, Ray Casey, was another older supervisor, always friendly, always took the time to help me out. And those guys were really good. And then Joe Trapani from Thompson and Nat Alcamo, those guys, I'd go there to get some controller parts, and they would actually show me things instead of just say, oh, take the part. They would stop and say, listen, here's how you wire this. This is what you do with this, and this is how it works. So, there's probably hundreds of micro mentors, I would call them, that
Sure.
make up the whole big picture. But it's those kind of people that help other people and don't really hide, knowledge from them. That is the key, because a lot of times on jobs, you can't fix something. A supervisor shows up. Supervisor says, "Hey, you know what? Go get me a coffee." You go get a coffee. You come back to the job. Job's fixed. And you say, "Well, what was that? What did I miss?" "Don't worry about it, kid. I'll see you later." I mean, back in the day, that was like a job security thing, but I think it's
Right.
a very unfair way to approach the business. If the business has been good to you, I think you should pass that along.
That's very cool. And along with that, I'd love to have you tell me a little bit about what makes Champion different. How is it that you try to develop your employees? Because it sounds like they're on the same learning curve that you've walked, and you know where they got to get.
Yeah, and I try to help everyone that I can. The first person that came into my company was Joe Corrado, and he's the vice president of the company right now. And again, he was in a little bit of a tough jam. He was with a company that was having problems, kind of similar to the way I had to start my own company. And I brought him in, and he has a lot of hustle in his step, and he sees the same vision to treat people with respect. And you put a hard day's work in, and you get something out of it at the end of the day, and you're thankful to see the accomplishments. And we do the same thing here. We hire people who are good people. We always have our radar up for who's a good person. And a lot of those good people know nothing about elevators. They know nothing about systems, processes. Some of them didn't even know anything about Microsoft Word. But the reality is, then we see how we could plug them into the elevator industry, and then we see how they can adapt into our business. And then what we do is we take a step back, we train them, we teach them, we show them our ways, and we actually listen to them when they come up with ideas that are actually better than our own. So it's like this cycle of helping each other achieve our own personal goals. And we try to do that. And it's very hard. Like I said, we're at almost 300 people. Some of them through acquisitions. We've been doing some acquisitions in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 now. We have acquisitions coming in. We closed on one today. And you get people that they are not the same culture, and you have to try to figure out, like, hey, listen, are they good people? What can we do to help them? And how do we work together? And we're always, trying to make sure that we're taking people and actually advancing them. They're in a better place now with Champion than they were before they got here. And if they're not, or they feel they're not, we talk about it and try to see why. And sometimes it could be an adaptation issue. It could be, listen, I just like to, fix one elevator and go home at 2:00 in the afternoon and not check it out with anyone. Right. And some things we have to learn how to live together, or it might not work out. But it all is about, teamwork and helping each other achieve, our own personal goals. I'm not doing this by myself. None of them are doing it by themselves, but together in a day, we accomplish a lot of great things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I can't imagine how much, I guess, difference once you acquire a company. The culture is going to be different. A lot of what they've learned is different. What are some of the challenges facing? Obviously, you're an independent. You're, from my perspective, one of the probably larger independents, because there's a lot of really small ones out there. But what are some of the challenges you face as a company? And what are some of the things that you feel like you can do to overcome them or work through those?
Yeah, I mean, manpower is obviously seems to be always at the forefront of. I mean, not a lot of people wake up and say, "Hey, I want to be an elevator man today." A lot of people don't even think about it. It's always a thing that's like kind of a little bit inbred. Like, "Hey, how'd you get in the business?" "Oh, my cousin, my father, my brother, my neighbor." It's never like, you don't think about it like becoming a policeman or a fireman or, a dentist or a barber, like things you see every day. So workforce is always a big issue. Uh, the COVID thing, I'd like to see that come and go as fast as possible.
Sure.
But that gave us some challenges from a health and safety perspective that we're constantly honing and refining here. Supply chain, I think that'll get back to somewhat normal once we get a good footing after COVID kind of is a little bit out of here. Because right now, but that's a little bit of a temporary problem, I'd like to believe. And then, you got the big ticket items like insurance is always a challenge. When I was a startup, it was a challenge. Insurance is a big, big piece of every operator's pie. So that is always an expense that's a challenge. And then the reality is you have to keep up and be on the forefront of safety. And that is something that is created and learned. It doesn't come natural. New people in the business don't know it. Older people in the business kind of think they got it all. Yeah, I've been doing this 30 years, nothing's going to happen. So they get complacent. And you have to try to, we have daily safety app that we have a safety app. The guys take classes on their phone daily, answer questions. Then we have quarterly safety trainings where all the men and women are pulled into the office and sit and go through a whole presentation. The unions have their safety classes. But the key is you have to keep it exciting, interesting. If you go into a room and you don't have some kind of connection, the people will go through the motion, but you don't absorb it. And I think one of the biggest challenges in the elevator business, because these machines are, they have no conscience. So you have to really be safety conscious and be willing to dedicate time, resources, money, everything else towards safety, because that drives your customer base, it drives your culture, it drives your insurance, it drives your reputation. So I think the biggest challenge for any size company is making sure safety is at the helm of the ship.
Absolutely. And the employees know that. They know if it's important, and that makes a huge difference. And I thank you for being on here. I kind of want to end with a question that just kind of looking back over your years in the industry, and what's one or maybe two things that you've learned that you would like to give to those who are new on this journey that you feel like has been gold for you?
Well, if they're starting or running an independent elevator company, the key is to, everyone says watch your overhead costs. The key is to know your overhead costs and how to implement them into your pricing structure. To me, I learned a very tough lesson in 2001. My company was growing super fast. I would add material, add labor, put 25% on it and pound my chest and say, I got another job with me, 25% profit. Until I hired a business consultant firm. And thank God they were a lot smarter than me. And they looked at all my costs and they said to me, Don, you took the material, which was perfect to the penny. You took your labor, which was perfect to the penny. And then you marked it up 25%. And you got so many jobs. And now you're wondering why you have no money in the bank. And I said, yeah, isn't that crazy? And I said, well, not really. You needed 32% just to cover your overhead.
Wow.
So every job I did, and the faster I got the work signed, I was putting myself out of business. So to me, if there's one thing I could share with anyone, especially someone who's starting up, like a father and son or two guys from the field, make sure that you got that down. That is a very instrumental, tiny little piece of advice that can really create a headache. So that's one little piece of advice. And I really believe that you have to treat people better than you would treat yourself or want to be treated. And, if it's genuine and you have that in your DNA, to be that type of person, I think you're going to end up surrounding yourself with great people and you will do great things.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like that consultant came at the right time, or
Woo,
that
just
would
in
have
the
been
nick of time, I'll tell you.
would have been a very painful lesson. Don, thank you so much for being here today, being able to talk about your company, your experience, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you, and congratulations to you on your success. Your company's doing great. I see you join the NAAC, and this is terrific stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the future too.
Thank you, Don. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast. You can check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.